What if I told you that the safest investment in the world could actually be losing you money every single day? It sounds like a paradox, right? We are taught from a young age that safety equals security. But in the world of fixed income investing, safety comes with a hidden tax called inflation. And if you're sitting in cash or low-yield bonds right now, that tax might be eating away at your purchasing power faster than you realize. Hi everyone, welcome back to Fiscal Beacon. I'm your host, and today we are tackling one of the most misunderstood, yet most important, components of a healthy investment portfolio: bonds. If you only invest in stocks, you are essentially betting on growth. But if you want to sleep well at night, you need ballast. You need stability. That's where bonds come in. Over the next few minutes, we're going to demystify what a bond actually is, how the price-yield seesaw works, and whether you should be adding them to your portfolio today. This isn't just theory. We're going to use real numbers to show you exactly how these instruments function. So grab a notebook or just listen closely, because by the end of this video, you'll understand how to use bonds not just for safety, but for strategic advantage. Let's start with the basics. What is a bond? Many people think of bonds as complex financial derivatives or things only big banks deal with. But the concept is surprisingly simple. When you buy a stock, you are buying a piece of ownership in a company. You are a part owner. When you buy a bond, you are acting as the bank. You are lending money to an entity, whether that's the government or a corporation, for a set period of time. In exchange for lending them your money, they promise to pay you back the principal amount at a specific date in the future, which we call the maturity date. And in the meantime, they pay you regular interest payments. These are often called coupon payments. Let's look at a concrete example. Imagine you lend $1,000 to the U.S. government via a Treasury bond. The bond has a maturity of 10 years and a coupon rate of 4%. This means that for the next 10 years, the government will send you $40 every year. At the end of the 10 years, they give you your $1,000 back. Simple, right? You are essentially a creditor. You have a contractual right to be paid. Now compare that to a stock. If you own Apple stock, the company doesn't promise you anything. They might pay a dividend or they might not. They might go bankrupt or they might become the next trillion-dollar company. With a bond, the outcome is much more defined, provided the issuer doesn't default. And for government bonds, the risk of default is considered near zero. But here is where it gets tricky and where most beginners get burned. You might think, okay, if I buy a bond at 4%, I will always get 4%. That is only true if you hold the bond until it matures. If you try to sell the bond before it matures, the price you get will fluctuate based on current interest rates. This brings us to the most critical concept in bond investing: the inverse relationship between price and yield. Think of it like a teeter-totter. When interest rates go up, bond prices go down. When interest rates go down, bond prices go up. Why? Let's go back to our example. You own a bond paying 4%. Suddenly, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, and new bonds are now being issued with a 6% coupon rate. If you wanted to sell your old 4% bond, who would buy it? No one, unless you offered it at a discount. To make your 4% bond competitive with the new 6% bonds, you have to lower the price you're asking for it. So, if interest rates rise, the value of your existing bonds drops. Conversely, if interest rates fall and new bonds only pay 2%, your 4% bond becomes very valuable. People will be willing to pay you more than $1,000 for it because it pays a better rate than what's currently available. This is why bond investors often say, "I'm not worried about the price fluctuation if I hold to maturity." And they are right. If you buy a bond for $1,000 and hold it for 10 years, you get your $1,000 back regardless of what the market price does in between. But if you need the money before maturity, or if you are holding bond funds rather than individual bonds, those price swings matter a lot. Now that we understand the mechanics, let's talk about what types of bonds are out there. Not all bonds are created equal. First, we have government bonds. In the U.S., these are Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. They are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. They are considered the safest asset class in the world. The trade-off? They usually offer lower yields because the risk is so low. Then we have corporate bonds. These are loans to companies. A company like Microsoft or Coca-Cola might issue bonds to fund expansion. Because there is a slightly higher risk that a company could struggle or go bankrupt compared to the government, corporate bonds pay higher interest rates to compensate you for that extra risk. Within corporate bonds, we have investment-grade bonds from stable, large companies and high-yield bonds, also known as junk bonds. Junk bonds are issued by companies with lower credit ratings. They offer very high interest payments, but the risk of default is significantly higher. It's a classic risk-reward trade-off. Finally, we have municipal bonds, or munis. These are issued by state and local governments to fund things like schools, roads, and bridges. The big advantage here is tax efficiency. The interest you earn on many municipal bonds is free from federal income tax and sometimes state taxes too. For investors in higher tax brackets, munis can be incredibly attractive. So we've covered what bonds are, how they work, and the different types. Now, the big question, should you have them in your portfolio? The short answer is, yes, almost certainly, but the how much depends on your goals. Stocks are the engine of your portfolio. They provide growth. They beat inflation over the long term, but they are volatile. They can drop 20%, 30%, or even 50% in a bad year. Bonds are the shock absorbers. They don't grow as fast, but they don't crash as hard. Let's look at a simple analogy. Imagine you are driving a car. Stocks are the gas pedal, they make you go faster. Bonds are the brakes. You might think, I don't want brakes, I want to go fast. But without brakes, you can't take the turns safely. When the market takes a sharp downward turn, having bonds in your portfolio reduces the overall volatility. It smooths out the ride. There is another powerful reason to hold bonds: rebalancing. Let's say you have a portfolio that is 80% stocks and 20% bonds. One year, the stock market has a huge year and goes up 20%. Your portfolio is now heavily weighted toward stocks, maybe 90% stocks and 10% bonds. If you want to maintain your original risk level, you need to sell some stocks and buy bonds. This forces you to buy low and sell high in a disciplined way. You are selling the asset that has gotten expensive, stocks, and buying the asset that has become relatively cheaper or more attractive, bonds. Without bonds, you miss out on this automatic risk management mechanism. But here is the modern twist. For the last decade, interest rates were near zero. Bonds were basically dead money. You couldn't get more than 1–2% return. Many young investors skipped bonds entirely, thinking they were useless. Today, the environment is different. Interest rates are higher. You can actually get decent yields from bonds right now. This means bonds are no longer just for preservation. They can actually provide meaningful income. However, we must address the elephant in the room: inflation. If a bond pays 4% and inflation is running at 5%, your real return is negative. You are losing purchasing power. This is why many investors now look into TIPS, or Treasury inflation-protected securities. With TIPS, the principal value of the bond adjusts with inflation. If inflation goes up, your principal goes up, and your interest payments increase accordingly. It's a hedge against the very thing that erodes cash. So, how do you get started? You don't need to go out and buy individual bonds unless you have a large portfolio and the time to manage them. For most people, bond funds or ETFs are the easiest way to gain exposure. You can look at aggregate bond funds, which hold a mix of government and corporate bonds, or you can target specific durations. Short-term bonds are less sensitive to interest rate changes, meaning their prices are more stable. Long-term bonds offer higher yields but are much more volatile when rates change. A common rule of thumb, though not a hard law, is to hold a percentage of bonds equal to your age. So, if you are 30, you might hold 30% bonds and 70% stocks. If you are 60, you might hold 60% bonds. As you get closer to needing the money, you shift more into bonds to protect what you've built. But remember, if you have a long time horizon, like 30 years away from retirement, you might want to hold fewer bonds than that rule suggests, because you can afford to take more risk for higher growth. Let's recap. Bonds are loans you make to governments or companies. They provide regular interest payments and return your principal at maturity. Their prices move inversely to interest rates. They are essential for diversification, reducing portfolio volatility, and providing steady income. In today's higher rate environment, they are no longer just a place to hide money, they are a viable income generator. The key takeaway is that you don't have to choose between stocks and bonds. The best portfolios usually include both. Stocks give you the upside, bonds give you the stability to stay invested during the downturns. Now, I want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not personalized financial advice. Every individual situation is different. Your risk tolerance, tax situation, and financial goals are unique to you. Before making any changes to your investment strategy, I strongly encourage you to consider consulting a qualified financial advisor who can help you build a plan tailored to your specific needs. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you currently hold any bonds in your portfolio? If so, what percentage? And have you been affected by the recent interest rate changes? Let's start a conversation down there. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And subscribe to Fiscal Beacon for more clear, actionable guides on building wealth and managing money. In our next video, we're going to dive into dollar-cost averaging versus lump sum investing. Which strategy actually yields better returns over time? You won't want to miss that one. Thanks for watching, and remember, knowledge is the best investment.